The stars looked the same as they always did, cold, distant, beautiful in a way that made a person feel small. Captain Han Doyen stood on the bridge of the patrol vessel steadfast, watching the darkness outside through the main viewport. He had been doing this job for 7 years now, patrolling the edge of human space, looking for threats that rarely came, making sure the colonies stayed safe. It was boring work most of the time, but Doyen did not mind boring. Boring meant everyone stayed alive. Boring meant families on those colony worlds could sleep peacefully at night. He had seen enough excitement in his younger days during the border wars. These days he preferred the quiet. "Captain, we are approaching Sector 447, said Park Subin from her station. She was young, only 23, with bright eyes that still held wonder when she looked at space. All systems normal. No contacts on sensors. Good, Doyen replied. He was a man of few words. His crew knew this and respected it. Maintained course. Standard sweep pattern. At the pilot station, Choi Minho stretched his arms above his head. Minho was older than Subin, around 30, and he had been flying ships since he was 16. Another exciting day at the edge of nowhere, he said with a grin. I swear if I have to chart one more empty sector, I am going to start talking to the computer for entertainment. You already do that, said Kim Ji-won from engineering. She was in her late 20s, practical and smart. Her fingers moved across her console, checking the ship's systems. I hear you having conversations with the navigation AI at night. That is different, Minho protested. I am just being polite to our ship. Doyen allowed himself a small smile. His crew was good. They worked well together. They trusted each other. In space, that trust meant everything. The Steadfast was not a large ship. She carried a crew of just 4, enough to run her systems and complete patrol missions. She was not built for combat, though she had weapons for defense. Her job was to watch and report, to be the eyes of humanity at the border between known and unknown space. Doyen had been given this command after his service in the war. Some people thought it was a demotion, pushing him to the edge where nothing happened. But Doyen knew better. This work mattered. Someone had to watch the darkness. Someone had to be ready if something came out of it. Captain, Subin's voice changed. The wonder was gone, replaced by tension. I am picking up something strange. Sector 447B near the asteroid field. Doyen moved to her station immediately. What kind of strange? A vessel, but it is not responding to identification requests. The energy signature does not match anything in our database. Subin's fingers flew across her controls. It is just sitting there, not moving, like it is waiting. Pirates? Minho asked, his hand already moving to the weapons controls. No, Juan said slowly, studying her own screens. Pirates use human ships or stolen alien tech we have seen before. This is different. Look at these readings. The power output is incredible, but it is not being used, just existing. Doyen studied the data. The ship was medium-sized, bigger than the Steadfast, but not huge. Its shape was unusual, smooth curves and angles that seemed wrong somehow, like they belonged to a different kind of geometry, and it was beautiful. Even on the sensors, he could tell it was beautiful. Subin, try hailing them again. All frequencies, Doyen ordered. Ji-won, I want full diagnostics on our systems. Make sure we are ready for anything. What are we going to do, Captain? Minho asked quietly. That was the question. Protocol said they should report this and wait for reinforcements. But reinforcements were 3 days away. The nearest military base was far behind them. If this ship was a threat to the colonies, 3 days could be too long. But if they approached and it was hostile, they might not survive to send a warning. Doyen thought about his brother, Taiyang, living on one of those colony worlds with his family. Thought about all the families, all the people who depended on him to keep watch. We go closer, he said. Carefully. Weapons ready but not locked. We show we are curious but not aggressive. If they are friendly, maybe we can talk. If they are hostile, we run and warn everyone. That could be dangerous, Ji-won said. She was not arguing. Just stating fact. I know, Doyen replied. But it is our job. The Steadfast moved forward slowly. The asteroid field surrounded them with chunks of ancient rock, the remains of a planet that died long before humans reached the stars. The strange vessel sat in the middle of it all, silent and waiting. As they got closer, Doyen could see it better through the viewport. It was not just beautiful. It was impossible. The surface seemed to be made of crystal or glass, but it shifted and changed as he watched. Colors moved across it like oil on water. Blue, then green, then purple, then colors he had no names for. "Captain, our systems are acting strange," Jiwan reported. Her voice was calm, but Doyen could hear the worry underneath. Not failing. Not being attacked. Just being analyzed somehow, like something is reading our ship. Reading us? Minyo asked. "What does that mean?" "I do not know," Jiwan admitted. "I have never seen anything like this," Subin gasped. "Captain!" "Something is happening." On the main viewport, light began to gather. It pooled in the air like water, forming a shape. A human shape. Doyen's hand went to the weapon at his side, but he did not draw it. Not yet. The light solidified. A figure stood on their bridge where no figure had been before. It was humanoid, with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head. But it was wrong in subtle ways. Too graceful. Too perfect. Its features seemed to shift slightly, never quite settling into one form. And it glowed from within, soft and gentle. The 4 crew members stared. Doyen stepped forward, putting himself between the figure and his crew. "I mean no harm," the figure said. Its voice was like music and wind and water all at once. Neither male nor female. Neither young nor old. "I am called Valera. I am a watcher of the Luminari, and I have come to speak with you, Han Doyen." Doyen felt his blood turn cold. This being knew his name. It had come here specifically for him. "How do you know who I am?" he asked. The figure that called itself Valera tilted its head, studying him with eyes that held stars. "Because I have been watching you," it said simply. "I have been watching all of you, and I have found something remarkable." Part 2, The One Who Observes. The silence on the bridge stretched for long seconds. Doyen kept his hand near his weapon, but something told him it would be useless against this being. Valera stood perfectly still, waiting with the patience of something that had existed for a very long time. "You have been watching us?" Minyo finally said. "For how long?" "Your species has been observed for approximately 300 of your years," Valera replied. The way it spoke was strange, clear and perfect, but without the small imperfections that made human speech natural. "All developing species are observed." "It is what we do. Why?" Doyen asked. He kept his voice steady, despite the fear trying to crawl up his throat. "Why watch us?" Valera moved closer, and its form seemed to shimmer. "Because we wish to understand. The universe is vast and old. Species rise and fall like waves on an ocean. We watch them. We record them. We learn from their existence." "You are spies," Subin said quietly. "No," Valera said. "We do not interfere. We do not judge. We simply observe and remember. When a species is gone, we are the ones who remember they existed at all." Jiwan had moved to her console, studying the data streaming across her screens. "Captain, I still cannot figure out how it got here. One moment nothing, the next moment it was just here. No teleportation signature, no dimensional breach, nothing." "Your technology cannot measure ours," Valera said gently. "We have existed for 3 million of your years. We have seen stars born and die. We have watched 1,000 species create civilizations and then destroy them." Doyen felt the weight of those words. 3 million years. It was impossible to imagine. Humanity had only reached space 200 years ago. Before that, they were trapped on one planet, fighting each other over land and resources. "What do you want with us?" Doyen asked. "You said you came to speak with me specifically. Why?" Valera turned its strange, shifting eyes directly on him. "Because you are interesting, Han Doyen. Your species is interesting, and you in particular represent something we do not fully understand." "I am just a patrol captain," Doyen said. "Nothing special." "That is incorrect," Valera replied. It raised one hand and light formed in the air above its palm. Images appeared like a hologram but more real. Doyen saw himself, younger, in military uniform, standing in a burning city during the border wars. "5 years ago," Valera narrated, "you were a commander in the 3rd Fleet. Your unit was ordered to hold a position while civilians evacuated. The enemy force was 3 times your size. Command said to hold for 2 hours. You held for 6. 47 of your soldiers died, but 4,000 civilians escaped. The image changed. Doyen saw himself pulling wounded soldiers from a damaged shuttle, carrying them on his back through enemy fire. You were wounded yourself," Valera continued. 3 broken ribs. Internal bleeding. But you did not stop until the last soldier was safe. You collapsed afterward and almost died. Anyone would have done the same, Doyen said quietly. The memories hurt. He could still hear the screams, still smell the smoke. No, Valera said simply. They would not. We have observed 643 similar situations across various species. In 81% of cases, the commander saved themselves first. In another 15%, they followed orders precisely and left when told. You were the exception. Minho stepped forward. So you are saying our captain is a good person? We already knew that. It is not about being good, Valera said. The light images disappeared. It is about being illogical. By all rational calculation, Doyen should have retreated after 2 hours. He had followed orders. His duty was complete, but he chose to stay. He chose to risk death for people he would never meet. For no reward, no glory, just because he thought it was right. That is what humans do, Subin said defensively. We help each other. Yes, Valera agreed. And that is what we do not understand. Doyen's mind was racing. Your people do not help each other. We cooperate when it is efficient, Valera explained. We share knowledge because it advances our collective goals. But sacrifice, risk without benefit, these concepts are foreign to us. We eliminated such tendencies millions of years ago. They were inefficient. They were what made you people, Jiwon said quietly. Valera turned to look at her. Explain. Jiwon hesitated, then spoke carefully. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days on Earth before we reached the stars. There were famines, wars, disasters, but people survived because they helped each other. They shared food even when they had little. They protected children who were not their own. They rebuilt after everything was destroyed, not because it made logical sense, because it was who they were. Inefficient, Valera said, but something in its voice had changed. Curiosity, maybe. Maybe, Doyen said. But we are still here. We survived. We made it to the stars. We built colonies on a dozen worlds. Maybe being inefficient is not as bad as you think. Valera was quiet for a long moment. Then it said something unexpected. That is why I came, it said. Most species we observe follow predictable patterns. Logic, efficiency, self-preservation above all else. But humans are different. You create art about your own mortality. You write songs about sadness. You fight wars over ideas like freedom and dignity. Concepts that have no physical form. You are a paradox. And I wanted to understand. Understand what? Doyen asked. How a species so flawed has survived this long, Valera replied. How you continue to exist despite making choices that should lead to extinction. How you maintain hope in the face of impossible odds. Minho laughed suddenly. It was a short, sharp sound. You came all this way to ask us why we are not dead yet? Yes, Valera said simply. The absurdity of it broke some of the tension. Doyen felt his shoulders relax slightly. This being was strange and powerful and ancient. But it was not here to hurt them. It was here because it did not understand something. In a way that made it less frightening. I cannot speak for all humans, Doyen said slowly, but I can tell you what I know. We survive because we care about each other. Because we believe tomorrow can be better than today. Because we do not give up even when logic says we should. But why? Valera asked, and for the first time it sounded almost frustrated. Why care? Why hope? Why not simply accept reality and adapt accordingly? Because hope is reality, Subin said. She had been quiet, but now she stepped forward. Hope is what makes us human. Without it, we are just machines that breathe. Valera studied her for a long moment. Then it looked back at Doyen. I wish to stay with you, it said, to observe more closely, to understand this thing you call humanity. Will you permit this? Doyen looked at his crew. Minho shrugged. Jiwon nodded slowly. Subin looked uncertain but curious. We need to report this to command, Doyen said. They will want to know about you. I expected this, Valera said. I will cooperate with your authorities. But I ask that I remain with your vessel. You Handoyan are the one I wish to observe most closely. You represent something pure, something we lost long ago. Your people have a word for it, I believe. Flawless. Doyen almost laughed. I am not flawless. I am full of flaws. Yes, Valera said. And its voice held something that might have been wonder. That is exactly what makes you flawless. You are completely, perfectly human, and I wish to understand what that means. Doyun had no answer to that, so he simply nodded. All right, he said. You can stay. But we do this properly. No more appearing out of nowhere. No more reading our systems without permission. If you want to understand humans, then you need to treat us with respect. Valira tilted its head, considering. Then it made a gesture that might have been a bow. Agreed, it said. I will learn your ways. And perhaps in time I will understand why you call your imperfections strengths. Doyen turned to Subin. Send a message to command. Tell them we have made first contact with a new species. And tell them it is going to be interesting. As Subin began typing the message, Doyen looked at Valira. The being stood quietly, watching them all with its strange star-filled eyes. He had a feeling their quiet patrol days were over. Part 3. The imperfect standard 3 days had passed since Valira appeared on the Steadfast. 3 strange, uncomfortable days where the crew tried to act normal, while an ancient alien watched their every move. Command had responded to their report with a mixture of excitement and fear. Admiral Kang Hieri herself had spoken with Doyun, ordering him to maintain contact but trust nothing. Learn what you can, she had said. But remember, we know nothing about these Luminari. Their intentions could be hostile. Stay alert. Doyen had promised to be careful, but the more time he spent with Valira, the less he feared it. The being was strange, yes, powerful beyond measure, but it did not feel dangerous. It felt curious, like a child discovering something new. Right now, Valira sat in the common area of the ship, watching Minho and Jiwon play a card game. Its form had solidified somewhat over the past days, settling into a more consistent shape. Still glowing softly, still not quite right, but more present somehow. I do not understand the purpose of this activity, Valira said. You are wagering small plastic chips that have no actual value. The outcome affects nothing, yet you both seem invested in winning. Minho grinned as he laid down his cards. That is because you do not understand fun. Read them and weep, Jiwon. Full house. Jiwon groaned and tossed her cards on the table. You always get the good hands. I swear you are cheating somehow. It is called luck, Minho said, gathering the chips. Something your engineering brain cannot calculate. Luck is simply probability you have not measured yet, Jiwon replied. See, that is exactly what I am talking about, Minho said, pointing at her. You take all the joy out of things by explaining them. Valira watched their friendly bickering with what might have been fascination. This is inefficient, it said. But you appear to enjoy it. Why? Because we are friends, Jiwon said simply. Friends enjoy spending time together, even doing pointless things. Friends? Valira repeated the word slowly, as if tasting it. We do not have this concept. We have colleagues, partners, but not friends. That sounds lonely, Minho said. What is lonely? Valira asked. The question hung in the air. Doyen, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped into the room. Lonely is when you wish someone was with you, but they are not, he said. When you feel separate from others, disconnected. We are always connected, Valira said. The Luminari share thoughts across vast distances. We are never truly alone. But are you ever truly together? Subin asked. She had joined them, carrying a tray of food from the small galley. Sharing thoughts is not the same as sharing feelings. Valira stood up smoothly. I wish to understand this better. Will you show me your vessel, your home? Perhaps seeing how you live will help me comprehend what I am missing. Doyen nodded. All right. Come with me. He led Valira through the Steadfast with the others following. The ship was small, but it was theirs. Every corner held memories. Every scratch and dent told a story. This is the bridge, Doyen said, gesturing around. Where we work. Where we watch the stars and keep people safe. I have observed this space, Valira said. Yes, but have you understood it? Doyen asked. He pointed to a small photograph taped to Subin's console. It showed a family. Parents and a young girl with bright eyes. That is Subin's family. She keeps their picture where she can see it while she works. It reminds her why she does this job. Valira moved closer to examine the photograph. She is protecting them. In a way, Subin said softly. They live on a colony world. My work keeps the borders safe. Keeps them safe. When I feel tired or scared, I look at them and remember what matters. This is inefficient, Valira said, but its voice was uncertain now. Emotional attachment could compromise your judgment. Or make it better, Doyen said. Come on, more to see. He showed Valira the small memorial wall near the engine room. Names were engraved on a metal plate. 23 names. Crew members from previous patrols who had died in service. We remember them, Doyen explained. Even though they are gone. Even though remembering hurts. Why preserve the pain? Valira asked. Because they mattered, Jiwon said. She reached out and touched one name gently. Lee Sumi. She was my mentor. Taught me everything about engineering. Died in a reactor accident saving the ship. If I forget her, it is like she never existed. But she does not exist anymore, Valera pointed out. She exists in us, Minho said. In what she taught us. In how we live because of her. That is how humans handle death. We carry our dead forward with us. Valera was quiet for a long time, studying the names. Then it said something unexpected. We do not die, it said. Not truly. Our consciousness transfers to new forms when our bodies fail. We lose nothing. We forget nothing. But we also never truly grieve. That sounds terrible, Subin whispered. Does it? Valera turned to look at her. You find comfort in forgetting? In the pain of loss? No, Doyen said. We find comfort in remembering. In knowing that love matters enough to hurt when it is gone. That is what you do not understand about us. We know we will die. We know everyone we love will die. But we love them anyway. We form connections anyway. Because the alternative is to live without ever truly living. Valera was silent. Doyen could not read its expression, but something about its posture had changed. It looked less certain. Less perfect. Come, Doyen said gently. Let me show you something else. He led Valera to his own quarters. They were small and simple. A bed, a desk. A small window showing the stars. On the desk sat a wooden box, old and worn. Doyen opened it carefully. Inside were letters. Actual paper letters written by hand. My grandmother wrote these, he explained. During the border wars. She was on Earth and I was in space. We could have used video calls. Instant messages. But she insisted on letters. Said there was something special about words written by hand. He picked up one letter and held it carefully. She died 3 years ago. But I still have these. I read them when I miss her. When I need to remember where I came from. Valera reached out slowly and Doyen handed it the letter. The being held it like it was made of glass. These marks on paper have no function, Valera said. They carry information you already know. Yet you value them greatly. Why? Because she touched this paper, Doyen said. Because her hand moved across it, forming these words just for me. It is not about the information. It is about the connection. The love. Love, Valera said softly. We eliminated this. It was inefficient. It caused conflict and pain. It also causes joy, Doyen said. Beauty meaning, without love, what is the point of existing? Valera looked up from the letter, and for the first time, Doyen thought he saw something like emotion in its strange eyes. I do not know, it admitted. For 3 million years we have existed without it. We have gathered knowledge. We have observed the universe. We have achieved perfection in logic and efficiency, but we have never asked ourselves if existence without meaning is truly worth preserving. That is the saddest thing I have ever heard, Minho said quietly. Valera carefully handed the letter back to Doyen. When I first observed you, Han Doyen, I called you flawless. I said this because you represented pure humanity, but I was wrong about what that meant. I thought it meant you were perfect in your function. A perfect example of your species. And now? Doyen asked. Now I understand, Valera said. You are flawless not because you are perfect, but because you are completely, utterly human. You are afraid, yet you face danger. You will die, yet you hope. You feel pain, yet you love. These are not flaws. These are what make you whole. The being turned to look at all of them. Doyen, Minho, Jiwon, Subin. 4 humans on a small ship at the edge of space. I have observed 1,000 species. Valera continued. Most destroy themselves through logic. They calculate that war is efficient. That genocide solves problems. That cooperation is a weakness to exploit. They follow cold reason to cold endings. But humans are different. You are illogical. You are inefficient. You make terrible decisions based on hope and love and faith. And somehow, against all probability, you survive. You thrive. You reach for the stars not because it makes sense, but because you dream of something better. So we are special? Subin asked. No, Valera said. You are not special. You are simply what all species should be, but most are not. You have retained the thing that makes existence meaningful, and I have spent 3 million years forgetting what that thing even is. Doyen felt a wave of sadness for this ancient being. All that time, all that knowledge, and it had lost something humans still carried. It is not too late, he said quietly. You could learn. You could feel again. Could I? Valera asked. Or is it already gone? Can something lost for millions of years be found again? I do not know, Doyen admitted. But humans have a saying. It is never too late to change. Never too late to become better. Valira looked at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been crying. Doyen could not tell. Perhaps that is another human flaw, it said. The belief that anything can be fixed. That hope exists even in darkness. Perhaps, Doyen agreed. But it is a flaw I am happy to have. Part 4. The coming storm 2 weeks had passed since Valira came aboard. The being had become a strange but accepted part of their crew. It attended their meals, though it did not eat. It listened to their stories. It even tried to play cards once, though it won so perfectly that Minho accused it of reading minds. I am not reading your thoughts, Valira had protested. I am simply calculating probabilities. Which ruins the whole point of the game, Minho grumbled. But today, the comfortable routine shattered. Doyen was on the bridge when Valira appeared suddenly, its form crackling with energy. Something was wrong. The being looked agitated in a way it never had before. We must speak, Valira said urgently. All of you. Now. Within minutes, the crew assembled in the common area. Subin looked worried. Jiwan was already pulling up data on her portable console. Minho stood with his arms crossed, watching Valira carefully. What is wrong? Doyen asked. Valira seemed to struggle with how to begin. I have violated my people's laws, it finally said, by staying here, by forming connections with you. But now I must violate them further, because I have learned something that humans value greatly, and it compels me to act. What have you learned? Subin asked. Loyalty, Valira said simply. Friendship. The desire to protect those you care about. And so I must warn you, even though it breaks every rule my people have maintained for millions of years. Doyen felt his stomach tighten. Warn us about what? Valira raised its hand and images appeared in the air. A fleet of ships, hundreds of them, dark and angular, built for war. These are the Karathi, Valira explained, a species that arose 7,000 years ago on the far side of the galaxy. They are logical, efficient, ruthless. They view other species as either resources to be used or obstacles to be removed. How far away are they? Jiwan asked, her fingers already moving across her console. They will reach human space in approximately 1 standard year, Valira said. They are expanding in this direction. 50 systems have already fallen to them. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They simply conquer. The weight of those words settled on the crew like a physical thing. Minho was the first to speak. Why tell us this? He asked. I thought your people did not interfere. We do not, Valira agreed. Its form flickered, showing uncertainty. We observe. We record. When species fall, we remember they existed. That is our purpose. But I have learned something these past weeks. Something that makes me question everything my people believe. What is that? Doyen asked quietly. That observation without action is not neutrality, Valira said. It is cowardice. If I watch you die when I could have warned you, then I am responsible for your deaths. You taught me this. You taught me that caring matters more than protocol. Subin's eyes were bright with tears, though she blinked them back. Thank you for warning us. Do not thank me yet, Valira said. The Karathi are powerful. Your military is strong, but they have conquered races more advanced than yours. They use weapons you have not imagined, tactics that overwhelm defenses. They will come and they will be difficult to stop. Doyen's mind was already working, thinking through implications. We need to inform command immediately. They will need time to prepare, to strengthen defenses, to develop countermeasures. I can help with that, Valira offered. I cannot give you weapons. The Luminari will not allow direct intervention, but I can share information about the Karathi, their tactics, their weaknesses, if there are weaknesses. Everything has weaknesses, Jiwan said firmly. Nothing is perfect. The Korathi believe they are close, Valera replied. They have eliminated emotion from their culture. They act with pure logic. Every decision is calculated for maximum efficiency. In that way, they are what my people became, but twisted toward destruction instead of observation. Doyen thought about his brother, Taeyang, his brother's wife, Yunha, their 2 children. They lived on a colony world called Haven's Rest, 3 systems from the border. If the Korathi came through that sector, his family would be in direct danger. How long have you known about this? Doyen asked Valera. The Luminari have observed the Korathi for centuries, Valera admitted. We have watched them destroy others. We recorded their victories. We preserved the memory of their victims. But we never warned anyone, because it was not our place to interfere. That is horrible, Subin said softly. Yes, Valera agreed. It is. I did not understand this until I spent time with you, until I felt what it means to care about others. Now I cannot stand by and simply watch, even if it means exile from my own people. Doyen stood up and walked to Valera. He placed a hand on the being's shoulder. The surface felt strange under, his palm solid but somehow flowing like touching liquid light. You are doing the right thing, he said. Thank you. Valera looked at him with those star-filled eyes. I hope so. But right and wrong are concepts my people abandoned long ago. I am choosing based on something else now. Something I learned from you. I am choosing based on what feels true. That is all any of us can do, Doyen replied. He turned to his crew. Subin, send an emergency transmission to Admiral Hieri. Code Black. Highest priority. Tell her we need to speak immediately. G1, start compiling everything Valera can tell us about the Korathi. Technical data, tactical information, anything that might help. Minho, plot a course back to the nearest military base. We need to deliver this information in person. Everyone moved to their tasks, but before Doyen could return to the bridge, his personal communicator chirped. It was a civilian channel. From Haven's Rest. His brother's face appeared on the small screen. Taeyang looked older than the last time they talked. More tired. But his smile was genuine. Brother, Taeyang said warmly. It has been too long. How is patrol duty treating you? Doyen felt his heart clench. His brother had no idea what was coming. None of the colonists did. They lived their peaceful lives, raising families, building homes, and in a year, war would reach them. It is good, Doyen lied. Busy but good. How are Unha and the children? Growing too fast, Taeyang laughed. Minje lost his first tooth yesterday. He insisted on showing everyone. And little Soman is trying to read. She is only 4, but she is already smarter than her father. She gets that from her mother, Doyen said, forcing a smile. They talked for a few more minutes about normal things, family things. Taeyang told stories about the children, mentioned that Unha had started teaching at the colony school, asked when Doyen might visit. Soon, Doyen promised. As soon as I can. When the call ended, Doyen sat in silence. Valera had followed him and stood nearby, watching. That was your brother, it said. Not a question. Yes. You did not tell him about the Korathi? No. Doyen looked up at the being. He would worry. And right now there is nothing he can do. Better to let him have his peace while he can. Command will alert the colonies when the time is right. You are protecting him from the truth, Valera observed. I am protecting him from fear he cannot act on, Doyen corrected. There will be time for fear later. Time for preparation. But not yet. Valera was quiet for a moment. Then it said, This is what love looks like. You carry the burden so others do not have to. You face the darkness so they can remain in the light a little longer. Yes, Doyen said simply. It must be painful. Very. Yet you do it anyway. Of course, Doyen looked at Valera. That is what family means, what love means. You protect the people who matter, even when it hurts. Valira's form flickered with emotion it was still learning to process. The Karathi would say this makes you weak. That emotional attachment is a tactical disadvantage. Maybe, Doyen agreed, but it is also what makes us fight harder. What gives us reasons to survive. The Karathi fight for conquest, for logic. We fight for each other, for home, for the people we love. That is a strength they will never understand. I hope you are right, Valira said quietly. So do I, Doyen replied. He stood up and headed to the bridge. There was work to do. A warning to deliver. Preparations to begin. His quiet patrol days were truly over now. War was coming, whether humanity was ready or not. But as he walked, he thought about Taeyang's smile, about Minjae's lost tooth, about little Somin learning to read, about all, the families on all the colony worlds, living their lives in peace. They were worth fighting for, worth dying for if it came to that. Admiral Hieri's face appeared on the main screen. She looked stern as always, but Doyun saw concern in her eyes. Captain Han, she said formally. I received your code black transmission. Report. Doyen took a deep breath and began to explain. As he talked, as he described the coming threat, he watched the Admiral's expression change from concern to alarm to grim determination. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. 1 year, she finally said. Not much time. No, ma'am. Then we had better not waste any of it, Admiral Hieri replied. Return to base immediately. Bring your alien friend. We have a war to prepare for. The transmission ended. Doyun turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral, he said. Minho, maximum speed. Jiwan, make sure our engines can handle it. Subin, send word ahead that we are coming. And Valira, prepare to share everything you know. I will, Valira promised. As the Steadfast changed course and accelerated, Doyen looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Karathi were coming. A tide of logic and efficiency and ruthless conquest. But they would find humanity waiting. Illogical, inefficient, flawed humanity, who fought for love and hope and all to Part 5. Learning to be flawed, 4 months had passed since the Steadfast returned to base. 4 months of meetings with command, sharing intelligence with military analysts and preparing humanity for the war that was coming. The Karathi would arrive in 8 months now. 8 months to get ready for a fight that might determine whether humanity survived or fell. But today, for the first time in weeks, Doyen had a quiet moment. Admiral Hieri had given him and his crew a few days of leave. Rest before the storm, she called it. They remained aboard the Steadfast, which was docked at the military station, but they were off duty. Valira had stayed with them through everything. The being had spoken to countless human officials, shared vast amounts of information about the Karathi, and endured hours of questioning. Through it all, Valira had remained patient and cooperative, but Doyen noticed changes in the being. Small ones, important ones. Right now, Valira stood in the common area with Jiwan listening to music. Jiwan had connected her personal music player to the ship's speakers, and soft melodies filled the room. It was an old song from Earth, something about rain and memories and missing home. I still do not fully understand this, Valira said. Music serves no practical purpose. It communicates no useful information. Yet you create it and consume it constantly. That is because you are thinking about it wrong, Jiwan said. She was relaxed, leaning back in her chair with her eyes closed. Music is not about information. It is about feeling. Feeling, Valira repeated. The being had been practicing emotions for months now, trying to understand what it meant to feel rather than simply observe. What am I supposed to feel from these sounds? That depends on you, Jiwan replied. What does the song make you think about? Valira was quiet, listening. The music swelled and fell, notes rising and fading like waves. It makes me think of loss, Valira finally said. Of distance. Of wanting to return to something that no longer exists. Jiwan opened her eyes and smiled. That is exactly right. The song is about homesickness. About missing a place you can never go back to. You felt what the music wanted you to feel. But I have never experienced homesickness, Valira said, confused. The Luminari do not have homes. We travel constantly observing. How can I miss something I have never had? Maybe you miss something else, Jiwan suggested gently. Maybe you miss what your people used to be. before they became only observers. Valera's form flickered, showing distress. I have been thinking about that frequently. My people eliminated emotions because they were inefficient. But now I wonder what we gained and what we lost in that exchange. Do you regret learning to feel? Jiwan asked. I do not know, Valera admitted. Emotions are painful. I feel sadness when I think about the species we could have warned but did not. I feel anger at my people's indifference. I feel fear about the coming war. These things hurt, but they also make existence more vivid, more real. That is what it means to be alive, Jiwan said. The pain and the joy together. You cannot have one without the other. The door opened and Minho entered carrying a tray with 4 cups of tea. Sobin followed him, smiling at something he had said. Tea time, Minho announced. I made it the way Doyen's grandmother used to. Or at least I tried. Doyen, did I do it right? Doyen took a cup and sipped carefully. The tea was hot and slightly bitter, with a hint of sweetness underneath. It reminded him of Earth, of his grandmother's small house, of sitting on the porch watching rainfall. It is perfect, he said quietly. Thank you. I made one for Valera too, Minho said, handing the being a cup. I know you do not drink, but I thought you might want to try. You know, for science. Valera took the cup carefully, studying the liquid inside. What is the purpose of this beverage? Warmth, Subin said. Comfort. It is something we do when we want to relax, when we want to feel peaceful. Valera raised the cup to where its mouth would be and somehow consumed a small amount. It stood very still for a moment, processing. It is warm, Valera said slowly, and the taste is complex. Bitter but also sweet. It creates a sensation that is pleasant but difficult to define. That is tea, Minho said with a grin. Welcome to one of humanity's favorite pastimes. Sitting around drinking hot leaf water and talking about nothing important. Why would you talk about nothing important? Valera asked. Because it is relaxing, Subin explained. Because not everything needs to matter. Sometimes it is nice to just exist together without purpose or goal. They sat together in comfortable silence, drinking tea. Valera seemed to be learning the rhythm of it. The quiet companionship. The shared moment that had no point except to be shared. My people would say this is a waste of time, Valera said eventually. No knowledge is being gathered. No observations recorded. Nothing productive is happening. And what do you say? Doyen asked. Valera looked around at all of them. At Minho's relaxed smile. At Jiwan's peaceful expression. At Subin's bright eyes. At Doyen himself, holding his cup with both hands as if it contained something precious. I say they are wrong, Valera replied. This is not a waste. This is what makes the time worthwhile. This is why you fight to survive, not for abstract concepts of species preservation, but for moments like this, for tea and music and friendship. You are learning fast, Jiwan said warmly. I have good teachers, Valera responded. Later that evening, Doyen stood alone in his quarters, looking at his grandmother's letters. He had read them so many times he knew most of them by memory, but he still liked to hold them, to feel the paper she had touched. Valera appeared silently beside him. The being had learned to knock or announce itself, but sometimes it still forgot. I am sorry, Valera said quickly. I should have alerted you to my presence. It is fine, Doyen replied. I was just thinking. About your grandmother? Yes, she would have liked you, I think. She always said the best people were the ones who kept learning no matter how old they got. I am 3 million years old, Valera said. Yet I feel like an infant compared to you and your crew. You understand things that should be simple but are infinitely complex, like what? Doyen asked. Like love, Valera said softly. I have studied it for months now. I have observed it in your interactions, but I still do not fully comprehend it. How can something so illogical be so powerful? Doyen set down the letters and turned to face Valera. Love is not logical because it is not meant to be. It is a choice we make despite logic. I love my brother even though he is far away, and I might never see him again. I loved my grandmother even though I knew she would die. I care about my crew even though any of us might not survive the coming war. The fear of loss does not stop the love. It makes it stronger. That makes no sense, Valera said, but there was wonder in its voice, not criticism. I know. Doyen agreed with a small smile. But it is true anyway. Valera reached out and carefully picked up one of the letters. Your grandmother wrote that she was proud of you, that you had become a man of honor and compassion. She said these things even though you were far away, even though she might never see you again. She loved you across impossible distance. Yes, Doyen said, his throat tight with emotion. I think I am beginning to understand, Valera said quietly. Love is choosing to care even when caring hurts. It is forming connections even though connections make you vulnerable. It is valuing another's existence as much as your own. That is a good definition, Doyen said. Valera carefully returned the letter to the box. I must tell you something. The Luminary Council has contacted me. They know I warned humanity about the Karathi. They say I have violated our most sacred law. I am to return immediately to face judgment. Doyen felt his heart sink. Are you going? No, Valera said simply. I told them I choose to remain here. With you, with your crew, with humanity. They have exiled me. I'm no longer Luminary in their eyes. I am sorry, Doyen said. Do not be, Valera replied. Its form seemed to brighten slightly. I have gained more in these months than I lost. My people have knowledge, but you have meaning. They have perfection, but you have purpose. They exist forever, but you truly live. Valera turned to face Doyen directly. You called me friend once. Is that still true? Yes, Doyen said without hesitation. You are my friend. Then I am richer than all the Luminari combined, Valera said. Because they have nothing and no one. But I have you. I have Minho and Jiwon and Subin. I have learned what it means to care, to hope, to fear, to love. These are the things that matter. Doyen felt tears in his eyes. He reached out and embraced Valera. The being's form was warm and strange, but it was solid, real, present. Thank you, Doyen said, for choosing us, for learning to be imperfect. Thank you, Valera replied, for teaching me that being flawed is the only way to be complete. They stood together in silence, a human and an ancient alien, bound by friendship that should not exist but did anyway. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. The Karathi were still coming. War was still inevitable. But in that moment, none of it mattered. 'Cause they had each other. They had connection and meaning and love, and that was worth everything. Part 6. The Karathi arrived. The alert came at 400 hours, screaming through every communication channel across human space. 3 colony worlds on the border had gone dark. No transmissions. No responses to hails. Just silence where there should have been thousands of voices. Then the first images arrived. Burned worlds. Shattered cities. The Karathi had come, and they had come early. Doyen stood on the bridge of the Steadfast, watching the reports flood in. His crew was around him, faces pale with shock. Valera stood silently nearby, its form dim with what Doyen now recognized as grief. They were supposed to have 8 more months, Subin whispered. We were not ready. They changed their timeline, Valera said quietly. They must have detected your military preparations. The Karathi are efficient. They adapt. They attacked before you could finish strengthening your defenses. Admiral Hieri's face appeared on the main screen. She looked like she had not slept in days. Behind her, Doyen could see the chaos of the command center. Officers running between stations, screens showing fleet movements and battle reports. Captain Han, she said grimly, I am activating all patrol vessels. The Karathi fleet has broken through our outer defenses. They are pushing toward the inner colonies. We are mounting a counterattack, but our forces are scattered. We need every ship we can get. We are ready, Admiral, Doyen replied immediately. Your orders are to join Battle Group 7 at coordinates I am sending now. You will be escorting civilian evacuation transports from Haven's Rest colony. The Karathi are moving in that direction. We need to get those people out before the enemy arrives. Doyen's blood turned to ice. Haven's Rest, his brother's colony, Taiyang, Unha, the children. Understood, Admiral, he said, keeping his voice steady, despite the fear clawing at his chest. We will not fail. I know you will not, Hieri said. Then her expression softened slightly. Your brother is on that world, is he not? Yes, ma'am. Then bring him home, Captain. Bring them all home. The transmission ended. Doyen stood frozen for a moment, processing the reality. His family was in danger. His brother's children. They needed him. Minho, he said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Plot the fastest course to Haven's Rest. I do not care if you burn out the engines. Get us there. Already done, Minho replied, his hands flying across the controls. We will arrive in 6 hours at maximum speed. Jiwon, I need those engines running beyond their limits. Whatever you have to do. I will make it happen, Jiwon promised. Subin, open a channel to Haven's Rest. I need to speak with my brother. Trying, Captain, Subin said, her voice tense, but communications are jammed. The Karathi are blocking most frequencies. I will keep attempting. Doyen clenched his fists. 6 hours. So much could happen in 6 hours. Valira moved closer to him. The Karathi will not destroy the colony immediately, it said quietly. They will take their time. Study the defenses. Optimize their attack. That is how they operate. Your brother has time. How much time? Doyen asked. I do not know, Valira admitted. But they are not mindless destroyers. They are strategic, calculating. They will wait for the perfect moment to strike. That is supposed to comfort me? No, Valira said. Nothing can comfort you right now. But knowing the enemy's patterns might save your family. The Steadfast jumped to faster-than-light travel, the stars stretching into lines outside the viewport. 6 hours that felt like 6 years. Doyun could not sit, could not rest. He paced the bridge, checking systems, reviewing tactical data, doing anything to keep his mind occupied. But images kept forcing their way through. Taeyang's face, the children laughing. Hyunha teaching at the school. Captain, Subin said suddenly. I got through. Audio only. The connection is weak, but it is there. Put him on, Doyun ordered. Static crackled through the speakers. Then Taeyang's voice came through, distorted but recognizable. Doyun, is that you? It is me, brother, Doyun said, moving closer to the communication panel. What is your situation? Chaos, Taeyang replied. We saw what happened to the border worlds. Command here is organizing evacuations, but there are 50,000 people on this colony. The transport ships cannot take everyone at once. They are saying it will take days to evacuate fully. We do not have days, Doyun said. The Karathi are coming. I am en route with evacuation escorts. We will be there in 5 hours. You need to get Yunha and the children ready to move immediately. I know, Taeyang said, and Doyun heard the fear in his brother's voice. Yunha is packing now. The children, they are scared, Doyun. Minjae keeps asking what is happening. He knows something is wrong. Doyun closed his eyes, fighting back emotion. Tell him his uncle is coming. Tell him everything will be fine. Will it? Taeyang asked quietly. Doyun wanted to promise. Wanted to say yes, absolutely, without doubt. But he could not lie to his brother. I will do everything I can, he said instead. I will not leave you there. I swear it. I know, Taeyang said. I have always known I could count on you. Just please hurry, I will. Stay near the evacuation zones. Be ready to move fast when we arrive. We will. And Doyun, thank you for everything you have done, for the life you chose protecting people like us. The connection cut out before Doyun could respond. He stood in silence, staring at the communication panel. We will get them out, Minho said firmly. All of them. Yes, Doyun agreed. We will. The hours crawled by. Reports continued flooding in from across human space. The Karathi were advancing on multiple fronts. Human forces were fighting hard, but the enemy's technology and tactics were overwhelming. Ships were being lost. Colonies were falling. Humanity was fighting for its survival. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Haven's Rest, Doyun's heart sank. The colony world hung in space, beautiful and blue, but surrounded by a growing Karathi fleet. Dark, angular ships that looked like pieces of sharpened metal. They moved with perfect precision encircling the planet. Count? Doyun asked. 47 enemy vessels, Ji-Won reported. Various sizes? 3 of them are capital ships. And Captain, our fleet is not here yet. We are alone. Doyun looked at the enemy force. 47 ships against their one small patrol vessel. It was impossible. Suicide. His crew knew it. They were looking at him, waiting for orders. He could retreat. Call for help. Wait for Battle Group 7 to arrive. That would be the logical choice. The safe choice. But his family was down there. And 50,000 other families. People who needed help now. Not in several hours when reinforcements arrived. Valira, Doyun said. You said you could not give us weapons. But can you give us a shield? Something to protect evacuation transports? Valira was quiet for a moment. The Luminari law forbids direct intervention. But I am no longer Luminari. I am something else now. Something that chooses compassion over protocol. The being's form brightened, pulsing with energy. I can create a shield frequency that will disrupt Karathi targeting systems. It will not protect you from direct fire, but it will make the evacuation ships harder to hit. It will give them a chance. How do we broadcast it? Jiwon asked. Through me, Valera said. I will use my ship. It is still in orbit here, hidden. I can activate its systems and create an interference field, but it will reveal my position. The Karathi will focus their fire on me. That is a suicide mission, Minho said. Yes, Valera agreed calmly, but that is what friends do. They protect each other, even when the cost is high. Doyen looked at this being who had become one of them, this ancient creature who had learned to care, to hope, to love, who was now willing to die for people it had only known for months. We cannot ask you to do this, Doyen said. You are not asking, Valera replied. I am choosing. Just as you chose to come here despite the odds, just as you choose every day to risk yourself for others. I have learned from the best teacher what it means to be flawed, human, and brave. Valera moved closer and placed what might have been a hand on Doyen's shoulder. You called me flawless once and I did not understand. Now I do. Being flawless means being perfectly imperfect. Caring when logic says not to. Fighting when wisdom says to run. Loving even when love brings pain. You taught me that. Now let me show you I learned the lesson. Doyen felt tears on his face. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Valera replied, for showing me what it means to truly live. The being's form began to fade, transferring back to its ship. But before it disappeared completely, it said one more thing. Tell Taeyang and his children that someone who was not human died believing humanity was worth saving. Tell them that hope is never illogical. And tell them that I was honored to call you friend, Han Doyen. Then Valera was gone. On the view screen, a crystalline ship suddenly appeared between Haven's Rest and the Karathi fleet. It began to pulse with brilliant light, waves of energy spreading out in all directions. Shield frequency is active, Jiwon reported, her voice thick with emotion. Karathi targeting systems are disrupted. The evacuation transports have a window. Then let us use it, Doyen said. Minho, take us down. Fast as you can. Sub and contact the surface. Tell them to get everyone they can onto those transports right now. Jiwon, monitor Valera's ship. I want to know the second it is in trouble. Captain, Jiwon said softly. It is already in trouble. The Karathi are moving to intercept. 47 ships against 1. On the screen, Doyen watched as Valera's ship faced the enemy alone. It was beautiful and terrible. The crystalline vessel darted Bedu. The Steadfast screamed through Haven's Rest atmosphere, hull heating from the rapid descent. Minho flew like a man possessed, threading through the chaos of evacuation ships launching from every spaceport and landing pad on the colony world. 40 transports airborne, Subin reported, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. 50 more loading. The shield frequency is holding. Valera is giving them time. But for how long? Doyen watched the tactical display showing the space battle above. Valera's ship was surrounded by Karathi vessels, taking fire from all sides. The crystalline hull was cracking, pieces breaking away, but it kept fighting, kept broadcasting the shield frequency that protected the fleeing transports. We are approaching the main spaceport, Minho said. Setting down in 30 seconds. The Steadfast touched down hard on the landing pad. Through the viewport, Doyen could see crowds of people running toward transports. Parents carrying children, elderly being helped along. Everyone moving with desperate urgency. They knew death was coming from the sky. Doyen's communicator chirped. His brother's face appeared on the small screen and relief flooded through him. Taeyang was alive. Yuna was beside him, holding Somin. Minjae clung to his father's leg, eyes wide with fear. Doyen, Taeyang said. We are at landing zone 7, but the transports here are full. They are saying we have to wait for the next wave. No, Doyen said firmly. Bring your family to the Steadfast. I am at the main port. Run. That is across the entire spaceport. It will take time. Then run faster, Doyen ordered. I am not leaving without you. Move now. He saw Taeyang nod and pick up Minjae. The family began pushing through the crowd, fighting their way toward the main port. Captain, Jiwon's voice was urgent. Valera's shields are failing. The Karathi are concentrating fire. The ship cannot take much more. Doyen felt his chest tighten. Valera was dying up there, buying them time with its life. Can we do anything? He asked, knowing the answer but needing to ask anyway. No, Jiwon said softly. We have no weapons that can reach that far. No shield strong enough to help. All we can do is make sure the sacrifice matters. Get everyone off this world. A massive explosion lit up the sky above them. Valera's ship had taken a direct hit from one of the Karathi capital ships. The crystalline vessel broke apart, fragments spinning away into space. But even as it died, it continued broadcasting the shield frequency, even in its final moments protecting the evacuation. "Valera," Subin whispered, tears streaming down her face. The shield frequency cut out. The Karathi fleet began reorienting, targeting the fleeing transport ships. They had minutes at best before the slaughter began. "How many transports are still on the ground?" Doyen demanded. 23, Jiwan replied, plus us. "Not everyone will make it off." "Yes, they will," Doyen said. He activated the general communication channel. "All transports, this is Captain Han, launch immediately. Do not wait for full capacity. Get airborne now. Every person in space is a person saved." Ships began lifting off, half full, quarter full, anything to get moving. The sky filled with vessels all heading for orbit, for safety, for survival. Doyen ran to the cargo bay and opened the ramp. People were streaming toward the Steadfast, desperate to board. He helped them up, pulling children, lifting elderly, guiding everyone inside. "Keep moving," he shouted. "Fill every space. We are not leaving anyone behind." Taeyang appeared in the crowd, Yunha and the children with him. Relief crashed over Doyen like a wave. His brother was alive. His family was alive. He grabbed Taeyang and pulled him into the ship. Yunha followed, carrying Soman. Minjae ran up the ramp and immediately hugged Doyen's leg. "Uncle Doyen," the boy said, voice muffled against his uniform. "I was scared." "I know," Doyen said, ruffling his nephew's hair. "But you are safe now. I promised your father I would come." "You always keep your promises," Minjae said with absolute faith. More people kept boarding. The cargo bay was packed, the corridors full. Every available space filled with civilians, far more than the Steadfast was designed to carry. "Captain," Minho called from the bridge. "We are overweight. If we load any more, we might not make orbit." Doyen looked at the crowd still running toward the ship. Dozens more people, families, children. "Keep loading," he ordered. "We make orbit or we die trying. But we do not leave them." "Understood," Minho replied. When the last person squeezed aboard, Doyen sealed the cargo bay and ran to the bridge. His crew was ready, faces determined despite the fear he knew they all felt. "Jiwon," he said, "I need everything the engines have. More than they have." "You will get it," she promised. "Minho, plot a course through the departing transports. Stay close to them. If the Karathi fire on us, maybe they will hesitate to hit the other ships." "That is optimistic," Minho said. "I know. Do it anyway." The Steadfast lifted off, engines screaming under the strain of the overweight load. They climbed through the atmosphere, struggling against gravity and physics and common sense. But they climbed. Around them, other transports were doing the same. A fleet of civilian ships packed with refugees all racing for the stars. Some were damaged. Some were barely holding together, but they flew. "Karathi fleet is targeting the transports," Subin warned. "They are firing." Energy beams lanced through space, striking at the fleeing ships. One transport exploded, then another. People who almost made it. Almost survived. "Evasive maneuvers," Doyen ordered. "Random pattern. Make us hard to hit." The Steadfast weaved between the other ships, jinking and rolling. A Karathi beam passed close enough that Doyen felt the heat through the hull. But it missed. They were still flying. "Where is Battle Group 7? He demanded. "Where are our reinforcements?" "Jumping in now," Subin said, relief flooding her voice. 30 human warships just dropped out of faster than light. They are engaging the Karathi. On the tactical display, Doyen watched humanity's military pour into the system. Destroyers and cruisers and carriers, all moving to intercept the enemy fleet. Missiles and energy weapons lit up space as the two forces clashed. "All civilian transports," Admiral Hayeri's voice came through on the emergency channel. "Jump to hyperspace immediately. Head for the coordinates we are transmitting. The fleet will cover your escape. Go now." One by one, the transport ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, jumping to safety, carrying thousands of people who would live to see another day. "Minho," Doyen said. "Get us out of here." "Working on it," Minho replied, hands flying across controls. "The overweight load is affecting the hyperdrive calculations. Give me 10 seconds. 10 seconds felt like forever. Karathi ships were breaking through the human defensive line, moving toward the transports that had not yet jumped. Energy beams filled space around them. "Come on," Minho muttered. Come on, you beautiful ship. Do this for me. The hyperdrive engaged. Stars stretched into lines. The Steadfast jumped. They were safe. Doyen stood on the bridge, breathing hard, unable to believe they had survived. In the cargo bay and corridors, he could hear people crying with relief. Families holding each other. Children asking if they were okay now. Taeyang appeared in the doorway of the bridge, still carrying Soman. Yuna and Minjae were right behind him. We made it, Taeyang said quietly. You saved us all. Not just me, Doyen replied. He looked at his crew. Minho, who flew impossible maneuvers. Jiwon, who pushed the engines beyond their limits. Subin, who kept communications open through the chaos. We all did this together. And Valera, Subin added softly. Without the shield frequency, none of those transports would have survived. Silence fell as they remembered the being who had sacrificed everything. Who had learned to care and paid the ultimate price for that lesson. What was that creature? Taeyang asked. I heard people talking, saying it was not human. It was not, Doyen agreed. It was something ancient and powerful. It could have stayed safe, could have simply observed like its people always do. But it chose to help. It chose us, and why? Yuna asked. Because it learned what it means to be human, Doyen said. It learned that caring matters more than logic. That love is worth the pain, that sacrifice gives meaning to existence. He looked at Taeyang, at his family, at all the people crammed into the ship. People who lived because an alien learned to be flawed. It called me flawless once, Doyen continued. I did not understand what it meant. But now I do. Being flawless does not mean being perfect. It means being completely, utterly human, with all our flaws and fears and foolish hope. And it means choosing to care anyway. The Steadfast flew through hyperspace, carrying its precious cargo towards safety. Behind them, humanity's fleet fought on. The war was far from over. But the evacuation of Haven's Rest was complete. 48,000 people saved. 48,000 reasons to keep fighting. Over the following weeks, more battles were fought. The Karathi pushed deeper into human space, and humanity pushed back. Valera's information about the enemy proved invaluable. The shield frequency was replicated and distributed to all human ships. The tide slowly turned. It took 6 months, but eventually the Karathi offensive stalled. Their perfect logic had not accounted for humanity's illogical determination. Their efficient tactics could not overcome